Hi, everyone. It's noon on Monday, and I'm Debbie Schwartz, founder of Road to College and the Paying for College 101 group. If you guys could just, I'm zooming from a temporarily new location, and so I just want to make sure that you can hear me. So if somebody could just say in the chat, they can hear, they can see me, that would be great. And if you also can put in the chat, I'd love to know who's here and what thank you. And what grade your student is in. And so honestly, I do these webinars a lot about merit scholarship. I usually go through slides. I have my slides ready. I can go through them, but I wanted to see if we had a lot of families here with 12th graders and maybe just give them the chance before I dig into like my normal information, if they have questions related to their situation, because it is November 25th, so things are coming to a close, for in terms of deadlines for seniors and applications. So if you're a senior and you're here and you have a specific question, let me know. Put it in chat, or feel free to even unmute yourself and ask the question, because I'd love to make sure that I can help you or hear your question, or try and get that resolved first, because I have a feeling that you might know a lot of the information that I'm going to go through that is maybe more relevant for 11th and 10th graders. So anybody here with a senior who wants to ask a question before I start with my slides and kind of talk about merit scholarships in general? Okay, that's fine. If you come up with a question, anybody who comes up with a question while I'm going through the slides, put the question in chat, and I will try and answer as many as I can as I'm going through, or I will look at the end of the presentation about what all the outstanding questions are. I guess my question to the 12th graders are kind of, where are you in the process? Are you still looking for colleges, which can be fine? I mean, up until the deadline, you and your student can still be making changes, or you just want to kind of see if there's anything that you've missed. So somebody's saying looking for last minute tips for confidence in the colleges she has applied to. Okay, that's fair. Twins were offered a merit scholarship, but deadline for acceptance is February 2nd. We will not hear back regarding merit scholarships until March. What do we do? Yeah, so there it might be, this kind of conflict of deadlines between when one college wants you to respond back versus not hearing all the information from another college. And there's not much you can do other than go back to the college that is pushing for the deadline. I mean, you can go in two directions. I would go back to the college that is pushing for the deadline and asking you to make a decision by February 2nd, and say, can you have an extension? That's one option. The second is go to the schools who you haven't heard from and say, how quickly will I hear? And can you expedite that? They sometimes might. And the third option is you can make a commitment for February 2nd, as long as it's not, and it shouldn't be an early decision commitment. And then you can decide to back out. Particularly, there might have been a time when that was frowned upon, but quite honestly, I feel with families not getting all the information that they need to have at the time when they make a decision, there's nothing to frown upon related to that, because you got to make the best decision for your student academically and financially. And if you don't have all the information there and you're forced to make a decision, and then you do, and as long as you may end up losing the deposit, but so that's another kind of trade-off that you have to make. So those are my thoughts and suggestions for Tolgar with your situation. Okay, another question: how to report jointly held assets with a non-spouse? So jointly held. Okay, so if it's jointly held assets, I'm assuming you're asking about either FAFSA on the CSS profile. If you have jointly held assets with a non-spouse, you're an owner. You could report half of it, but you have to report it since that's still money that you technically have access to. Okay, kids have selected their schools, but the list keeps changing. Completely fair. One child, we have twins, hasn't started applying yet. The other has applied to a handful of schools. We also learned that revocable trusts are a factor with FAFSA. How do we address this? I mean, honestly, there's not much you can address about the revocable trust. They are an asset that needs to be included. You could include some more information after you get the financial aid award if you want to appeal it and explain, why the money might not be really available. But there's not much you can do about the trust issue. And in terms of the one twin that hasn't applied yet, they still have a month, maybe a month and 2 weeks, depending on some deadlines. It's all still doable, it just may not make your holidays as pleasant as you'd like them to be. So I wish, I would definitely, hopefully they get started. If you need extra help, reach out to us, but it's time to get moving. So if we accept the early action merit scholarship, may we back out if something better is offered? They are not set in any particular. They are not set in any particular college. I assume you're talking about your student. They are okay with either college as long as they get a good offer. Early action is just that. There is no commitment. So yes, is there a deadline? Oh, I guess that's Tolger again. Is there a deadline? So the deadline is February 2nd. I would wait, they're not going to pull back your scholarship between now and February 2nd. So I would wait until the deadline to see what else happens from other colleges that come through. If you still want to hear from the other colleges, again, you can ask this one for an extension, or if you decide to accept it, make sure, you might just have to see if they're also asking you to put money down, whether or not you're going to get that deposit back. But you can back out. Applying for housing is tied to committing to the school. Should we wait to see what competitive merit she receives or apply for housing? So I'm assuming, Marion, when you're asking applying for housing is tied to the school, that she's got accepted or your student has been accepted, but and the school is asking you to commit to housing, but you haven't heard back from the merit. You haven't heard back from that school about merit scholarships. Again, these are kind of like all conflicting deadline issues, and I would ask around about the housing situation at that particular school. Join the parents group, the Facebook parents group, or if there's another type of parents group, and ask how competitive the housing is. Do they, again, I don't know the particular school. You can commit to housing. Again, you can back out. It's all going to be based on whether you're okay. You have to see if the deposit is refundable, and also get a feel for how competitive the housing is at that school. Some colleges, the housing is legitimately competitive, meaning, they might, run out, or you might not get the best housing if you apply early. And that's why they're pushing students to send in their commitments for housing. At other schools, I have to say, it's a little bit of a marketing ploy, to push you to commit to the housing. Then it's one step closer to making sure that your student's going to enroll. So you have to kind of do a little bit more research if you can, and see if you can figure out the difference between those situations. We're still looking for colleges, and we don't really know where to start for the colleges. Okay, we'll get to that. is there an easy way to create a list that includes universities that have automatic merit based on GPA scores? So I'm going to show you, there's a way to create a list based on test scores. I have to be honest, it's not an easy way to know if those schools give automatic merit. But once you have the list of the schools where your student is likely to receive merit, at least you can have a faster way of researching to see if they offer automatic merit. And I'll show you what automatic merit is. And if they offer it, it's just a matter of quickly going to their website and seeing if they are showing a grid. The schools that are offering automatic merit, believe me, they want you to know that they are offering the automatic merit. So it's on their website. It's pretty clear. I'll show you a way to just narrow it, the list, and then you can quickly look at the websites of the schools, and that should be a pretty decent and fast way to get to the information that you're looking for. Okay. For early decision, is there a commitment that we still need to adhere to if we find out the cost is not manageable? Again, we have twins going to college at the same time. I'm not going to pronounce your name correctly. I think it's Naja family that you have listed. So early decision, just for everybody else who is here, who may not be familiar with these terms, early decision, your student applies early. Usually it's a deadline somewhere between, October to December. And by applying and you're signing a commitment, you, meaning the student and the family, is saying that if your student is accepted during the early time frame, that they are committed to going to that school. So basically they get accepted. There's no choice. That student says, I'm automatically gonna enroll in that school. The little bit of wiggle room, which Naja family has pointed out, is that if the financial aid information comes back and it is truly not affordable for your student and your family, you can back out and say, this school isn't affordable now that I have all the information related to the offer. Most early decision schools are going to let you back out. They don't love it, but if it's a financial reason why you need to back out, they will, agree to it. In general, there is no legal commitment that anybody is making with early decision. So I'm just going to say that because it's really more of a moral and an ethical commitment that you and your student have done the research. That's why you're applying early. You're not, and that the college is, in a lot of cases, and I can show you numbers, is giving you a better chance of getting in. And quite honestly, also the school, your high school counselor is a little bit involved in this because they had to sign off, and they are kind of saying, yes, we feel that this student is committed, and making a good decision. So the thing about the financial is that I will say majority of the schools that offer early decision, tend to be schools that are wealthier, that have good endowments. They tend not to, there's a subset of schools, but the majority of early decision schools tend to be schools that give a lot of need-based aid. And so I'm saying all this because they also tend to be schools that have very good net price calculators. So I personally feel that if a family does the net price calculator at an early decision school and feels comfortable with that number, and then applies and gets a financial aid package that is close to the number that was in the net price calculator, then they've done their due diligence, and there shouldn't be a surprise, and they really morally and ethically shouldn't back out because they got close to what they expected going in. If for whatever reason you did the net price calculator and the offer that came back was wildly different than the net price calculator, absolutely, you can say, this is not what I expected. This is not kind of like how I went in. We went into this decision and we financially can't afford it. If your financial situation's changed, which could happen since your student, sent in the application, then sure, it's fair to back out. I would just go into the process kind of as ethical as possible. Make sure you're doing all the right steps, and you know, if you truly can't afford it and the offer comes back, then you know, definitely back out and tell the school why, and they will respect it. So let's see, Samantha, we want to target best colleges with the major sport merit. How do we tailor searches for best merit with majors if open to various states and private options? Seems like an ominous list. With twins, we can afford about 12,000 each year and not eligible for need-based funds. Okay, so I'm just gonna push your comment aside, Samantha, for a little bit, because I will show you as I go through the slides how you can target what you're looking for. If the net price calculator says you don't get assistance, do I need to file the CSS to get merit scholarships? Also, will the information from 1 year CSS be used against the student the following year? Okay, so in terms of filling out the CSS, if you've done the net price calculator and it truly says that you're not going to get assistance, the only way to know whether or not the school wants the CSS profile for merit scholarships is to ask them. My gut is that they probably don't need it for merit scholarships if they're a CSS profile school, but again, like the most important source of truth is the college itself. So have your student reach out to the admissions office and ask them to double check, you know, to say, I'm applying, I want to make sure that I'm eligible for merit scholarships. Unless I need to fill out the CSS profile for merit scholarships, my family would rather not. And then your second question, this applies to everybody. Will the CSS profile information be used? I would say be used in following years for your student. Again, that depends on the colleges. There's some colleges that actually only ask you to fill out the CSS profile once, and then they do use it for the rest of the 3 years after. If you find that your financial situation changed during that time period and it would make it beneficial for you to refill out the CSS profile, you can go back to that school and ask to do that. And then other schools want you to fill it out every year. So it's a school by school answer to that question. Our student has gotten several auto merit aid offers of between 12,000 and 18,000 a year from schools she's interested in, but they are still more expensive than the in-state alternatives. As a first step, is it best to apply for department level scholarships to bridge the gap? Does the school want to know that you can't choose them unless it's a certain price? I feel like we've done the applications and financial aid correctly, but don't understand the tactical part of the next steps. Great question, Tom. Well, first of all, congrats to your student who has been getting these automatic merit aid offers. Just curious if you want to respond, is that through direct admission offers, or when you say automatic merit, it's, you know, they've applied and their stats are, they've applied to schools that are offering automatic merit and their stats are in the range that school is giving merit for? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah,
But in terms of like,
oh, can you hear me?
yes, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, basically they, it's like she was accepted, and then a couple of weeks later they sent a letter saying you qualify for this amount of money, sort of thing.
Okay, great. So it wasn't the direct admit process, which is like kind of new and become like bigger this year. But so that's all I was curious about. So in terms of next steps, there is like a next phase to kind of, it's basically appealing the merit aid. I would, in all honesty, it's basically a form of negotiation that you're gonna try and maneuver with the college. But to your point, if the college has departmental level scholarships that are appropriate for your student, absolutely let them apply, because that would be, a first step to bridging the gap. And then if there is still, if they either win those scholarships or they don't, and you still have a gap, I would wait to see how your students' other offers come in. I assume that there are other applications that they've sent and you haven't heard back. And usually, in the end of January timeframe, anytime from January to the student enrolls, you can go and ask for more money. And we honestly have a whole webinar about how to do that, and whether or not you're asking for more money based on need-based aid or whether it's merit scholarships. So yes, you should go back. To summarize the approach, I would try all the possibilities to get, additional money. So go after the other scholarships, and then wait to see if the other offers come in and they are better offers, and get you a better net cost, that what you're looking for. And so in terms of kind of relating it to the state schools, your in-state alternatives, did your student apply to the in-state alternatives? Because you can't just go back to the private college and say, this is higher than my in-state, but my student didn't apply there and doesn't want to go to in-state.
No, she did, and she's interested in the in-state alternatives as well.
Okay, great. So then you've kind of like, setting up your, your argument, your case, to go back to the school. And then, and again, and I can, if you go to our YouTube channel, we actually have this webinar from previous years. I mean, the information hasn't changed about how you approach if you want to kind of look at it now. But if you're going to ask for more merit money, you're going to want to, is there anything that's changed about your student situation? Did they get, better grades? Did they take the test again? Did they get another honor? Anything to kind of boost, their application to the college. And then you're just going to lay out, these are my students' offers. These are the net costs of what it's going to cost me. This is what I can afford. My student really wants to go to you, but we can't bridge the gap. Can you help us get closer?
Okay. Thanks so much. That helps a lot.
No problem. Okay. We saved in a 529 and UTMAs, which I now understand are considered the student's asset. Is there anything we can do to move the UTMA into the 529 or move other assets considered a parent asset? Does it even matter? Good question. So for those who aren't familiar with FAFSA and the CSS profile and what assets are considered parental assets, actually a 529 is a parent asset. I just want to clear that up for the person who is writing this. But the UTMA or the UGMAs are student assets. So the question, can you move the UTMA and UGMA money to the 529? You should be able to. I mean, you can, it would just become a contribution. And if your student did that, it would be moved out of their assets to the parent asset. But the question about does it even matter is a great one. It may or may not. Just so you know, in terms of student assets, when the calculation is done for the FAFSA and usually the CSS profile, they look at student assets and they say 50% of that student asset should be considered to go to paying for college. So that's a pretty high percent. For parent assets, it's usually about 5.6%. So that's why so many families try and get the, if they have assets in their student names, it should be moved to the parents. But the question of does it even matter? And that's a good question, because too many times people think, oh, I should be doing all this maneuvering, and they don't kind of check, is it going to make a difference? If I move all this money, which, legally, you can do, am I going to make an impact on the financial aid my student's going to get? I don't know, but you should definitely make the analysis. And an easy way to do that is go to a school, run the net price calculator with everything the way it is today, and then run the net price calculator at that same school and change the assets. Reduce the assets that your student has and move those assets to you. Did it make a difference in terms of, and it's one school, but it just kind of will show you, did it make a difference in terms of whether or not you're going to get more aid at that school? The biggest defining factor in all of these calculations is parents' adjusted gross income. So, and I don't know what the money is in the UTMA, but moving an UTMA that might be $5,000 or $10,000 probably won't make a difference, because it's the parents' adjusted gross income, that contributes over 50% of the calculation. So, and unfortunately, by the time you fill out these forms, the adjusted gross income, which is based on taxes from 2 years ago, so these financial aid forms are based on your taxes from 2023, is done. It's cooked. It's in the books, right? So that's why we try and make so much, try and make parents of 10th and 11th graders now aware that financial aid calculations are based on, for you, it's going to be based on the 2024 taxes. So we actually did a webinar about 2 weeks ago to discuss this, to give you ideas for those families. If you wanted to lower your income, there are still ways that can help. And actually, the webinar was most helpful for families of 10th graders because they have a whole year ahead to kind of figure out how they might want to change potentially their income structure, and if it will make a difference. So good question. I wish I had, a black and white answer, but run the net price calculator both ways and see if it makes a difference. And but it's really your income that's the biggest driver. Okay. How much do you charge? How much do you charge for an hour for consulting? Oh, sorry, that was a direct message. Wondering if there are other schools we should have applied to. December 1st deadline for applying for top merit. We are okay. So let me just tell you a little bit about like Road to College and Paying for College 101 and me and other people on my team. So my goal, I started this about 7-8 years ago. My background was in financial services, really more in investments and credit cards. But I just saw, actually, I started doing work for a student lender and I saw the confusion that was happening in this space. And quite honestly, nobody was providing the right information and good information to parents who I felt were the ones who really needed to be educated to manage the process and guide their students. So we provide a lot of free information. My goal is really to help what I call the DIY parent, the parent who is involved, wants to learn, is doing the research, but maybe needs a little help and direction, because this is a process which none of us, right, know about until we get to that point in life. And so I've now been, working with families for over 10 years. So I've gone through it multiple times, but you as a family, you maybe go through it once or twice, depending on how many kids you have, and there's a lot to absorb. So you're never gonna become as familiar with it as people who do it year in and year out. So, but my goal was also to give families tools, again, that they could do it as best they could on their own. And I'm going to show you one of the tools. It's called Insights. It's to help you search for colleges and merit. And then if people kind of like what I call run into roadblocks, or they want somebody to look over the work that they've done, they can, purchase an hour, or a few hours of time of people on my team who will go over their situation. But it's always, again, this is just my philosophy. I'm trying to provide services at a really reasonable price. I'm not here to sell these mega packages, which private college counselors do. I'm just here to kind of help families in this confusing and overwhelming situation, because it's a major financial decision for parents and students. And I kind of, when I came to this space, one of the things I say is it's really one of the only life financial decisions that impacts 2 generations at the same time. It's potentially going to impact families and parents in lots of different ways. And it obviously impacts the student based on the debt that they might have to pay back. So that's just my philosophy. So to the person who sent me the direct message, send me a email at support@roadtocollege.com, and we can follow up, and we can definitely still look over and help you out for December 1st. Okay. One last question. Would you be able to share your slides for later reference and point us to the recording of this session afterwards? Yes, we send the link to the recording. So you'll get that tomorrow. Okay, I'm just jumping around and I think I'm going to go to my slides soon, just so I want to make sure that families who might have 11th and 12th and 10th graders kind of get information out of this. What if the 529 is owned by a grandparent? Is it still considered a parent asset? It no longer, it is not a parent asset. I'm not even going to tell you how grandparent 529s used to be handled because it doesn't matter, but that's definitely an option these days. I call it a legal loophole. Grandparents can own 529s. There is no accountability for it on any of the financial aid forms, and that's definitely a way of getting the 529 money out of the family and away from the student, but it can still be used for the students to pay for college. So yes, that's definitely a possibility. What percentage of parents' retirement is considered? That's a really good question. So for the FAFSA, it does not ask for retirement assets. So that's just completely out of the calculation. For CSS profile, they do ask for your retirement assets. I've heard varying comments about how the colleges who ask for the CSS profile use those assets. Some colleges just say we want to see what amount of money parents have in retirement to just understand how financially secure the family is or isn't for the future. Other schools do actually include the money in retirement as a possibility for using it to pay for college. So it varies, and this also might be a consideration for some families purposely choose to only apply to maybe schools that only have FAFSA, and they don't want to deal with the CSS profile, but other parents or families, they'll just kind of still apply to the CSS profile, knowing that their assets are going to be looked at differently between the two forms and the two calculations. Okay, so somebody is saying, I filled out my FAFSA and they never asked for my AGI. Does that seem right? Guessing they just pulled it from the IRS. That's exactly it. In the past 2 years, that's been the major change. And I'd say improvement of the FAFSA is that there's it automatically will pull your information from the IRS for that portion of the form. You basically, you may or may not have realized it, but you gave approval and consent for that at the very beginning of the form of the FAFSA, and then it just automatically pulls it. So that's why it didn't ask for your specific AGI, but if you're doing estimates before you're filling out the actual FAFSA, that's one of the pieces of information that the estimators usually ask for. Okay. My son received $11,000 per year merit aid from a flagship state school. From your experience, have you seen any further increases to merit aid if we submit an appeal? So RR, don't know your name, that's just what's listed here. Tell me what school it is, and I will pull it up in Insights. We'll see if we have any more information about it, and you can at least compare what your son got, which was $11,000, to other students at that school. So if you want to unmute and let me know what the school is, I will take a look. Flagship state schools, I got to tell you, I'm impressed that they got $11,000. That actually seems a little on the generous side for a flagship state school. I don't know, you're not saying it whether you're in state or out of state. You might get a tiny bit more from doing an appeal, but I wouldn't count on a lot more. But I always say there's no harm in there's no harm in asking. So, it might be an hour and a half of your time to put the appeal together. And you might get a no, but even if you got an extra $1,000, it's it would be a worthwhile effort. So, but again, if you want to let me know what the school is, we can look it up.
Yeah, hey Debbie, this is from where out of state?
Did you want to, I'm sorry, I can't hear you, RR, but.
Can you hear me?
I can't, it's very faint.
Okay,
Do you want to put it into chat what the name of the school is?
yeah, just a second.
Okay, and so I'll look up our school and then we're gonna jump to slides. Okay, Auburn. Okay. Let me share my screen. Okay, so just let me know, somebody give me a thumbs up or that that you can see my screen that I've shared. It shows insights.
We can see it.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, so I'm just gonna sign in and we'll go to Auburn and then I'll show you more about how to using this tool, but I'm just gonna go try and quickly answer this question. Okay. Actually, here, let's go here. We'll go through to this quicker. Okay, so in Insights, which is the tool that we offer, if you have a paid membership, you can get access to this information on a button called Crowdsourced Offers. And I'll show you what that is. We've been collecting offers barely back to 2020. I think they might have even been a year before that, but not maybe for every school. And you can go and see what families have shared. This information is anonymous, but you can see the profile of the student. You get a little financial information about the family, and then you see what dollar amount the college offered. So let's see for 2020, this was last year, Auburn. So merit scholarships, some students, the student got 11,000. So we put this in order of your SAI. So that kind of tells you, you know, what economic grouping you're in, and whether families with the same economic profile, and then you can look at the student's profile. Did they get a similar award to what your student was awarded? So I don't know what your economic level is, or just if you want to share what your SAI is, but I'm just scrolling through and there's, you know, a various range. I mean, kind of in a similar area, but 11,000, 15,000, 17,000, 5,000, 15,000, 11,000, 17. Okay, so you know, 12,000, 15,000. So based on this information, I would tell you RR to appeal. I mean, I would have told you to appeal anyhow, but it, you know, again, you might get, look, you're not going to get, these are numbers, these are annual numbers, but they are for 1 year. So this is like what the 1 year merit scholarship is. Just be realistic. You're not going to get 20,000 and above, but you might get a few $1,000s more. Again, $2,000-3,000 per year over 4 years. If you can squeeze out another, you know, $8,000 to $10,000 just from sending an appeal letter, and you getting $2,000 to $3,000 more a year, why not? So hopefully that's helpful for you. Okay, I am going to skip to my slides, and they will probably be more appropriate. I mean, hopefully anybody with the 12th grader can stay. You can ask questions, but I'm going to kind of backtrack a little and help the families with 10th and 11th graders, and so that they can learn about merit scholarships. Okay, let me stop sharing and move to the slides. Okay, it would be helpful. Somebody just gives me a thumbs up. I always like to know if you guys can see. Great, thank you. Going back to RR, when I just saw you said we are out of state. I didn't look quickly, honestly, but if you end up, you know, getting the tool, or if you have access to it, you can see what state the students are from. So you can see whether or not they were, in-state or out-of-state students. You can also go back the year before to see, how the money was being offered. So anyhow, just wanted to share what information is there. Okay, we don't have a ton of time left. Sorry, I spent more time answering questions, but I will go through what I think are some of the important slides. Okay, so the reason why we focus so much on merit scholarships is that the majority of families aren't going to be eligible for what we call need-based aid, and so if you're not eligible for need-based aid, the only other way to reduce your cost of sending your student to college is a few different ways. One is save as much as you can, but if you're here with a 10th or an 11th grader, there's not much more time to save. Is to be pretty diligent about your budget, and we're going to talk about that. So if you can find a school that with a cost of attendance from the start is below your budget, well, that's a way to making sure that you're getting an affordable school. And the third most important one is colleges are offering money these days in the form of merit scholarships. This is money that is not tied to your finances. It's not based on your family's financial situation. It's based on how good of a student, in most cases, how good of a student how academically strong your student is. And so it's important to understand how to find those colleges, right? And then do the research ahead of time to make sure, beyond the finances, that it's the right school for your student, whether socially and academically those pieces fit. And then it all comes down to the college list. The college list, to me, is the pivotal piece in this whole process. If your student doesn't apply to the right colleges, then, and when I say right, they have to be right academically and financially, then you're not going to get the results that you want, because the colleges that are on your student's list are the colleges where your student will either be accepted or denied from. They're the colleges that are going to offer or not offer your student money. And then those colleges on the list are going to determine your final net cost of sending your student to college. So, we've got lots of sayings in this process. And another saying that we have is, you can't get money from a school you didn't apply to. So we see lots of comments in the February, March, April timeframe of people saying, oh, wow, that school gave a great scholarship, but my student didn't apply there. If they didn't apply, they're not going to get the money. So if you're a 10th and 11th grade family, doing the research on the colleges is so important, and making sure that your student has a list of colleges that they're going to apply to, where they have the opportunity to get merit scholarships, where maybe there's a few colleges that are close to your budget. The colleges on the list is the deciding factor in terms of how well your student and you do in this process of finding a school at the right price that's going to make it affordable. Okay, merit scholarships, the quick and dirty, is it's money that the colleges give students. Really, it is a form of a tuition discount. Colleges are private institutions, most of them, other than obviously the public ones, but most private, the more merits, the higher dollar amounts are coming from private colleges. But as we saw from RR, there are some flagship state colleges that are also offering merit. They're not maybe being as generous, but also, maybe their cost of attendance sticker price is not as high to begin with. But you're going to get the larger dollar amounts from the private colleges. Something to keep in mind is that, and somebody kind of asked this question, the dollar amounts that we're talking about are annual. If your student is awarded a merit scholarship, it's awarded for 4 years. And just a little caveat, which we talk about later in the year, is that there's usually a GPA requirement that comes along with the merit scholarship. So your student is awarded the merit scholarship, and if they want to continue receiving it every year, they have to make the GPA requirement. Sometimes it's very lenient. Sometimes it might be a little bit difficult. So you got to make sure you know what that GPA requirement is, and you and your student feel comfortable that they're going to make it. Okay. So somebody asked earlier about automatic merit scholarships. We've got these categories. They're just the way that we've organized, like how we think about merit scholarships. They're nothing official, but there are groups of colleges that give automatic merit scholarships. There are groups of colleges where you can get merit scholarships, but it's more competitive and your student has to take additional steps to get the merit scholarships. And then there are other colleges that are giving scholarships based on, your student's talent. Do they have a portfolio for art? Are they in, music and theater? They'll probably have to do an audition. So, definitely if they've got a talent and they're pursuing it, there could be colleges that are offering money, for their talent. But let me skip quickly. So the automatic merit scholarships, usually those colleges, I want to say they're proud, and they should be, or are the most transparent. They share that information on their websites. They have a grid, they have a table. This is just one example from Miami University of Ohio that shows, if your student falls into a certain, in this case, just a GPA range, and that they are accepted to the college, they will automatically get a certain dollar amount. So I'm going to show you with Insights, we can narrow down the schools where your student is likely to get merit. And then we recommend that you go to those schools' website and you see, do they have a chart now that I should be looking at and seeing, based on my student's GPA, what range might they be in? As you can see, the merit or automatic merit used to be based on test scores and GPA. Since a lot of schools, and because of the pandemic, went test optional, they moved just to GPA. Some schools still have a test score requirement for merit scholarships, even though the school might be test optional. So that is something else to look into and ask about. The other thing that I like to highlight related to GPA is making sure that on the chart, are they listing weighted GPA or unweighted GPA? Miami University is unusual. It's kind of why I showed them that they show weighted GPA, but most schools are using an unweighted GPA. So make sure you know what that number is that's listed on the grid, if they have a grid. And if it's unclear, again, Miami University made it clear. They have a little footnote number 1 that says that the GPA that's listed here is based on a weighted GPA from your students' transcript. In their case, they're actually going to recalculate it based on the weighting from your student's transcript. But make sure you know what is being used. And if it's unclear, ask the college. I mean, we can provide a lot of direction, which we do, and we kind of maybe like help you hone down which schools to really focus on. But I will say at the end of the day, the source of truth is always the college. It's always the college website. If anything is unclear, go back to the college and confirm, what GPA are you showing on the website? Is that weighted or unweighted? Because you don't want surprises when your students get their results back. Oh, thank you, Sarah. Sarah's saying it's a really good point. To all the non-senior parents, many colleges that offer generous merit also require you to apply early. The most common date we found was November 1st, 100%. The world is shifting earlier in the world of college admissions. As Sarah is pointing out, and actually that's like my next slide is that, well, this is related to competitive merit, but some schools, whether or not it may not be competitive merit, but they just want you to apply as part of the early, usually early actions session to be eligible for merit, or maybe even higher merit. So again, this is information that it's on the school's website. And so once you've narrowed down the schools, you really have to dig through the school's websites and make sure you kind of have gathered all of this deadline information. So I'm moving on quickly to competitive merit scholarships. These happen in lots of different ways. Some colleges make it clear on their website that you need to fill out an additional form, you need to fill out an additional essay to be considered for competitive merit scholarships. Other schools actually have your student apply, and we're seeing it now with a lot of the students, and then they send an invitation for your student to now apply to, you know, the presidential scholarship. So sometimes your student won't know until after they send in the application that they're going to be invited to another round of applications for additional scholarships. And other times it's clear and it's part of the initial application. So I show this one example from University of Southern California, USC, which is sometimes confused with another school in the South. But the reason why I show this example, and to Sarah's point, is if you want to be considered for merit scholarships at USC, you need to apply November 1st for early action, even though their regular decision deadline is December 1st. So if you apply December 1st, you can apply, but they will not review your application and consider it for merit scholarships. If you want merit scholarships, you got to apply November 1st. And depending, there is one little caveat. This is particularly for USC, that they might, there are some majors that allow you to apply for merit scholarships December 1st, but the point here is deadlines can vary. If the school's offering merit, they might have a different deadline for merit versus their regular decision deadlines. Yes, the other USC is University of Southern Carolina. Okay. So somebody's asking, what is it called when a student applies to a college just as a bargaining chip? How similar do the two schools have to be, and how? Gosh, I have a name for it, and I don't know why I am blanking on it. But it's just kind of like an internal name. But what Allison is referring to is that there are schools just like in business, right? They consider like other schools to be their competition, that they know that a student that is interested in their school is very likely usually interested in a set of other schools. I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm blanking today. It's something, peer institutions is what we call them. And there's ways of finding out what the peer institutions are for the colleges that your student might be interested. One way, really simply, is you can Google and, like say Tulane peer institutions. And sometimes they actually have it somewhere on their website, and they will discuss who their peer institutions are. Another way is, which is a little bit more difficult, and I can't show you exactly how to do it right now, but if you go to IPEDS, which is the government data source, there's a way of generating a report for each college that shows what the peer institutions are that college considers their competition. So you can, I know what we call those colleges. It just came to my head. We just call them leverage colleges. So if you want to apply to a school that's very similar to the school your student really wants to go to and get merit from, your student might apply to a leverage school, which is very similar, and you're applying there to see if they get more merit, so then you could use that as an offer to the school they really want to go to say, basically, you guys are similar, they gave me more merit, but my student wants to go to you. So that's a quick example. Somebody's asking, am I still going to go through Insights? Yes, I'm going to go through this really quickly. Know your numbers. I'm not even going to go through all the details of the numbers, but these are the numbers that are really important. Cost of attendance, that's the sticker price of the college. That's kind of like the highest that you're going to pay, but you want to know what that number is. SAI, Student Aid Index. This is the number that's going to be generated from your FAFSA. It comes out, a variation of it comes from the CSS profile. The best way of estimating your SAI is to, the government actually improved their estimator. Google the, just say federal SAI estimator. It will bring you directly to the, that calculator on the federal website. If you're in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, you can estimate your SAI, do it now. Actually, and along with the SAI is I would do the school's net price calculators also to see what that cost comes in at. Your family need is taking the cost of attendance minus the SAI. So that's honestly what colleges look at to say, do you have need? So is your SAI below our cost of attendance? So the SAI is some estimation of what you can pay for college. Is there a gap between what you can pay and what we're charging? Therefore, you have need. If you don't have need, if your SAI is above the cost of attendance, which is shocking to a lot of families, but that is the case, then you're not going to get any need-based aid. Again, that's why you're looking for the colleges that are offering merit. And the last really important number has nothing to do with the government, has nothing to do with the colleges. It has to do with your family and what is your budget? What can you afford to spend for college? So it doesn't matter what the government thinks you can spend. It doesn't matter what the sticker prices are, right? You need to come up with, how much have you saved? Is there money that you can cash flow from your everyday, expenses? Maybe you can lower some expenses and put towards college. Is there another family member that can help pay for college? Figure out how much you can spend over 4 years and then make that into a yearly budget. Don't put all of your savings into, well, that I can kind of pay for that 1 year of college at this amount. You don't want your student only going for 1 year. You want them to going for 4 years. And so your family budget might not, allow you, it may not cover all the colleges that you want, but at least you need to know how much you can pay for on your own, and then how much you're willing to take out in loans if you're willing at all, and then how much merit money your student needs to get to afford some of these schools, and then maybe how much private scholarships, if you can find them and your student can win them, that they're going to need to really cover the gap. Okay, so let me skip now, and I'll show you Insights, and then we can go back and answer questions after. Okay, so I think everybody can see Insights now. What we did with Insights is combined several different data sources, because there's actually lots of information out about the colleges that can help you with the process, but the problem is they're all like disjointed, right? So the government collects data, and then a really valuable source of information is something called the Common Data Set, which colleges, a lot of them share publicly. But the problem is that you can only dig into a college's common data set, by going to the college's website itself and then looking at it. There was no source that compiles all the common data sets and lets you do what I would call is a reverse lookup. So to say, I don't know what colleges I want to really, research yet. I want to kind of help me narrow from the 3,000 plus colleges that there are. How can I narrow it down to at least, 60 or 50 colleges to research more intensely? And maybe then ultimately I'm going to get to, 10 or 12 colleges that my student applies to. So, you're going to start wide and then just going to keep narrowing it based on the research that you continue to do. So that's why we created Insights, to help you go from the wide lens down to, a more narrow view of which schools now you really want to spend the time to research. So I'm going to go to what we call the power search and show you different ways that you can search for schools. So you can put in specific schools, somebody you might already have in your head that your student is interested in a certain set of schools. You can put them in there and it will get included with the other filters that you put in. You can select by majors. I think somebody asked, how am I going to narrow this, based on what majors the schools offer? You can pick, multiple majors that your student is interested in. You can also filter this by locations. The top locations are the regions that are grouped by the government, so we include them if you want to look at a particular area, or if you want specific states. Or you don't have to fill it out. You don't actually have to put in any filter for a region, and you can just see what comes back and then decide, whether or not your student is interested, maybe based on the location. I personally recommend putting as few filters on as possible, because you want to start wide, and then you want to see the list, and then you want to filter out the list. Okay, cost of attendance. So this is the sticker price. This is one way of searching. So if you have a budget, and I'm not even gonna say if, you should have a budget, take your budget. I'm just gonna make up, an arbitrary budget. Maybe you've been lucky enough to save, and your student, you can spend $45,000 a year for your student. That's, pretty good budget. So what you can do is now you can say, okay, show me actually out-of-state schools, and this is or out-of-state costs, where it costs between 40 and 50,000. So what this says is, if I'm an out-of-state student at these public colleges, and my budget is 45,000, then like I can automatically, in theory, afford Coastal Carolina University, because I have enough money, even if I get no aid, that I can afford to send my student there. So that's, one way of doing the filtering. You could do the same thing for private colleges. So, show me all the private colleges that have a sticker price of between 40 and 50,000. So what you're doing by looking is at these types of schools is you're saying, if I get no aid, if I get nothing for them from that school, at least I know I can afford it based on the resources I have. So I would definitely do this type of search and put, at least one or two of these colleges on your student list, depending on what your budget is and, what type of schools come back in this search. So this is one way of searching. Another way is you can look at how much merit does the school offer? Does the school offer, I want to just see schools that offer merit between $30,000 and $40,000. So you can, put in your ranges here. Oops, I said 50. Okay, whatever. And then this now shows you these schools have, Albion offers an average merit award of $43,000. That's pretty generous. And they're offering it to 100% of the students who don't have aid. Their sticker price is $68,000. So, you could, if your student got this amount of aid, the net cost of going to Albion is, in the 20s. So, again, if from a financial perspective, if that's the dollars that you're looking at, you might be interested. And now you'd want to dig in further into Albion to see whether or not it has other criteria that match what your student's looking for. So that's one way of doing the search. Let me just clear this. Okay. And then another way is you can look at, we also let you look at the net cost. So, right, we're talking about merit, that's all valuable, but the real number that you need to focus on is not the sticker. I mean, you can focus on the sticker price, but the ultimate number is going to be your net cost, right? And your net cost is going to be the sticker price minus whatever money the college is going to offer you. So we've done the calculation, and that's another way you can search. So you can say, show me the private schools that have a net cost after the average merit might be awarded of between, $30,000 and $40,000. Okay. So we haven't yet filtered, is your student going to, does your student have a likelihood of getting this money yet? I'm going to show you that, because, are they in the academic range that this school offers money to? But at least I'm showing you different ways that you can just search from a financial standpoint, the different colleges that are in the database. Okay, now I'm gonna skip to, you can, add on early decision, early action, if, you're a 10th or 11th grade family, to see which of the schools you're gonna have to focus on to apply earlier. But one of the defining factors in finding out if your student might be eligible to receive this merit is going to be based on test scores and GPA. But test scores is an easier way to search. And I know we're in the world of test optional, but the reality is from a data perspective that colleges share the most data about the test scores. It's kind of counterintuitive, even though, you know, they're test optional, they're still collecting a lot of information about test scores. And unfortunately, they don't share as much about GPA. So I'm not saying that they're not using GPA, they absolutely are, but from a searching perspective, we're gonna be able to look for those schools most easily by using a student's test score. So if your student doesn't, you can still search, your student can have a test score and you can apply test optional. That's fine. If your student has never taken the test, then I would take their GPA, and there are some charts, particularly one by Prep Scholar, where you can convert your student's GPA to an assumed test score that they might have gotten, or a range of a test score that they probably would get with that type of GPA. So I would do that conversion to use for searching purposes. But let's search by, let's say my student has somewhere between a 1200 and a 1300. I want to search, I can search this list of schools to say which of these schools have an average SAT in that range. That's fine. But colleges aren't going to give merit money out to the student who has the average. They're going to give merit money out to the student who's at the top of their academic range, the school's academic range. So that means they're going to give out money to the student whose test scores fall into what we call the top 25th percentile, or they're at the 75th percentile and above. So that's why we click on this top range, okay? So now that's the only filter I have here. I don't have a filter by major, which I could put on top of this. I don't have a filter by location. I don't have a filter yet about, sticker price. I just have a filter on, these are the schools where my student's test score of 1200 to 1300. Oops, I didn't put in 1300. 1300. Put my student at the top of the academic range. Okay. Now I can sort this list. So I can say, okay, now of this list, sort it so that show me which of these schools give the highest average merit. Susquehanna comes up at the top. It actually is a very good school, very generous school. There's a lot of students who get good merit scholarship monies from there. And again, this is in a particular SAT test score range. I'm just going to click on Susquehanna. I have no affiliation for them. In fact, actually, I've reached out to them and they don't want to talk to me. So I'm just really, but from a financial standpoint, they are generous. And so I'd like to let parents know about it. If you look at the crowdsourced offers, this is from, let's go to last year. You can see they give, from definitely from the 40s to mid 40s, 45, in terms of the merit scholarship amount. So they are very generous. And we have a lot of families that share information about them. So I'm just kind of digging in and showing you kind of the background numbers as to why this school is showing up where it is in this results. So once you do these filterings, then you can go in and add these colleges to a list that you can create. You can name the list whatever you want. You can create multiple lists. You can add them to an existing list. And once you've created a list, you can see more data about the school in a table format, which we find very helpful. So I'm going to skip over to the table format, which would be under my lists, and show you what that looks like and how you can continue more of the filtering. Okay, so I have a few different lists here. I think I should have had, oh, okay, oh, maybe I don't. Oh, I think I know why. Okay, so here's just why I thought I had more than one list, but here's one list, which is 1200 to 1300 SAT, 75th percentile, meaning that score was in the 75th percentile. They are private schools and they have early decision and early action. This is a list that I created. I named it this. You can create whatever list you want and name it however you want. Now I have all this information in a table format, and we have different groupings of data, which I've added. So there's data about admissions, data about the merit scholarships, and data financial, which would be about the cost of attendance. And now I can go through and in a different way, compare all of these schools and the numbers. And I can also I can sort any of these columns. So let me go to the admissions section. Here, which is, so we have overall admission rate. We break out early decision rate. We break out early action rate if they share the information. And then we also calculate what we call a regular decision rate. So if a school has early decision and regular admission, they are taking a certain percentage of the class early decision. And so by the time the students are applying regular decision, there are fewer seats that are available. And that gets sometimes masked by the numbers, and parents don't, or students don't realize at some schools, when they're applying regular decision, the chances of getting in are harder because there are fewer seats that are available. So that's why we break out the numbers. So let's just, and then you can sort these pages or these columns. So here, let's see. Okay. So again, this was a group of schools where the test scores were in the 1200 or 1300, put these schools in the 75th percentile for these schools. And, they have different overall admit rates. I'm just gonna, just to show you how the numbers work out. Let's just see this for a second. Okay, yeah. So High Point. So High Point has an overall admit rate of 80%. If you apply early decision, it looks almost pretty guaranteed you're going to get in. You get an 84% chance of getting in. They take a lot of people early action. Okay, so this might be a good school that your student wants to apply to early action because they can get in early. They might feel good that they have an acceptance under their belt. But you can see that there's a difference between applying regular decision and early and early. So by the time that students have applied regular decision, the college has already committed 47% of the seats. So they're not applying, there's not 100% of the seats left. There's 53% of the seats that are left. And so that's why it becomes more competitive, because more students apply regular decisions and they're applying for fewer seats. So that's why we break out these numbers. These in general are slightly less competitive schools, but if you start looking at anywhere the schools that have an overall admit rate of 30% and below, you will see it'll be very interesting to see these breakouts. I'll just tell you one off the bat. It's not in this list, but like Tulane. Tulane accepts, I think, like 65% of their class early decision. So if you're not applying early decision to Tulane, your chances of getting in are much harder during the regular decision session. And this is not to push people or feel that they have to apply early decision, but it's just so that you know what the chances are. And they change for some schools. They're going to change dramatically if your student applies regular decision versus early decision. One other way I like to use these tables is going to, I can look now at which of the schools on this list are most generous. I can sort this column that says the average merit award. So now I can see again, Susquehanna came to the top. So they give on average $39,000, and they give it, this is the other important number to look at, they give it to 70% of students who don't have financial need. So if you're a student who applies to Susquehanna and your stats put you at the 75th percentile and above, and you don't have financial need, you have a really good chance of being accepted. You have a really good chance of being offered a substantial merit scholarship award. So that's the way I use these numbers. It's as everything we're talking about, it's really financially focused, but I feel it's important that you take the financial lens on where your student's going to apply first. And then now, if you created a list of maybe 20 schools or 30 schools where you feel financially that either they are within your budget or your student has a good chance of getting merit, and that makes it closer to your budget, now take the other step and do the other type of research. Now look into the specific programs. Maybe from this list, you'll create, a smaller list of schools that you'll actually go visit. Look at the school's website, go and go to a virtual, information session. Now you can feel like it's worth your time to take the next level of research, because you at least know that there's a chance that you can afford the school. It's going to come closer to the numbers that you're hoping that college will cost your family, as opposed to the other way, which is a little bit like throwing darts, in that, of course your students, might be interested in all these schools, but you have no idea whether or not you can afford it. And you start going down, researching and visiting, and you spending a lot of effort and time. And then, you're over halfway through the process, or sometimes people don't even realize they can't afford it until their student gets accepted. And, it was all a waste because you could never afford that school anyhow. So that's the purpose of the approach that we're trying to take here. So Insights, there is a free version and a paid version. A free version, you can't look at the crowdsourced data. You only get the chance to make one list. You can do some searching, but you can't see all of your results, but you can get a sense of what the tool looks like. The paid version, there's a monthly rate. It's $24.99. And then if you're a junior or a sophomore, we actually give you a reduced rate if you choose it for the year. And if you choose it for a year, you also get invited to other webinars that we have on different topics. And then, as somebody had asked much earlier, you also get a discount on any one-on-one services that you might want additional help with. So that's kind of like our membership approach. Again, always trying to make it as reasonable as possible. Some people just use this for a month. That's fine. If you can do all your research in a month, or if you're a senior and you only have like a month left, so spend the $25, do your research. Believe me, it pays back way more than the $25 if you can find a school that can offer your student merit, or you can find a school that's within your budget. So there's lots of different ways that you can use us or work with us. I'm kind of like, I'm up to any of them. We're really here to kind of help the families get through this crazy, unnecessarily overwhelming process. Okay, let me stop sharing, and I've got like 3 or 4 minutes left, but I will look at the questions and see which ones I can answer that would be worthwhile. Okay, so somebody's asking, Allison said, my SAI, this is one thing I didn't go over. My SAI was way below the cost of attendance and I got 0 aid. The school said that's a gap to fill with loans. What is the point of the SAI if financial aid isn't going to be given? Loans are not financial aid. Completely agree, loans are not financial aid. And some schools try and make it look like the loan is their aid. So if a school is doing that, I just, A, be careful, B, so let me just say one comment. I believe that, all this research is and ultimately, what school your student goes to, this is kind of like a relationship you're developing, right, with that school. So if they're treating you and your student a certain way before you've even committed to the relationship, to me, that's a red sign or a red flag to kind of like say, hey, if this school is making it difficult for me to get information and I'm just researching, then are they going to be any more accommodating when my student actually goes there, and I've gotten basically committed to 4 years of my student of paying at that school. So just kind of keep that in mind. But your comment about what's the point of the SAI if the financial aid isn't going to be given. So there's, again, lots of different things you've got to research. You've got to figure out your numbers. That was the slide I talked about. Then you've got to, once you know kind of where you fall, are you a family that has need-based aid? Are you a family that needs to look for schools with merit? Then you've got to start researching what's the philosophy of the colleges. So Allison, unfortunately, I don't know what college it was. It might have been a college that isn't offering need-based aid. Just because you have the need, excuse me, doesn't mean that if you apply to a school that has a philosophy of not offering money for need-based aids, that they're going to offer you money. So you got to understand where you fall in the spectrum And then you got to find the schools that are going to match where you are in the spectrum. So it's the same case of parents saying, well, I wanted merit, but I applied to the school and they didn't give merit. Well, a lot of times the parents are applying to a school that don't offer merit money. Well, if they don't offer it, then off the bat, your student's not going to get merit. So it might have been the same case here. Your student might have applied to a school that is just not generous in giving need-based aid, and that's why they didn't offer it. The way to check the need-based aid, which I didn't go over, is but it's in the filtering, it's in the power search, and it's in the table grid. There is information that says % of need met. % of need met is only for need-based aid. So if a school says we meet 100% of need, that means that whatever your financial need is from the cost of attendance minus the SAI, they are going to cover it with some need-based aid. There are schools here that give 100% of need-based aid. That's very generous. And then there are schools that say, we'll only meet 20% of need-based aid. So you, again, want to know that information before your student applies. So somebody's asking, how do you get access to the Power Search site? This is, I'll put it in the group. This is at insights.roadtocollege.com. You can create a free account and then you can decide whether you want to do the paid version. So somebody I have twins. Can we share the account? Yes, you only need one account for family. Right now, we only give you the ability to put in profile information related to one student, but you can go in and change the profile information if you want to look for a second student. You also, you can be doing the power search filtering, and it's not based on anything you put in the profile. So you can use any criteria you want for the searching and create your lists. So yes, you can use one account for multiple students. I love this. Is there a Black Friday deal for everyone here today? There is a deal. I have to say, I can't remember it offhand because so the person on my team that does the email marketing is sending it out. So there is, so check your emails. She'll be sending something, I think later today or maybe like pretty soon. And there is a slight discount. There is a little bit of a deal. Yes. So look in your emails. I can't remember what it is off the bat, but we are happy to offer something in the world of Black Friday, and it's in your emails. When is the Insights going to be updated with all the 2022 data from all of your data sources? So good question. Insights was updated in August with 20. So this is, I have to step back and kind of think about the numbers. This is the way that college data gets updated. It's based on the common data set. A lot of our information, I'd say 75% of our information is from the common data set. So the common data set, colleges fill it out, usually in the fall to spring, and they are filling it out based on the class that started school, enrolled in school in the fall of that year. So this year, the common data set, it will be based on the class of students that entered in the fall of 2024. That data is not available yet because they haven't filled out the data set yet. That will be kind of the August update of 2025. The data that is most recent, and that data isn't even, the colleges haven't even published that data. The data that the colleges published over the summer was for students that enrolled in the fall of 2023. That is the most recent data that is available anywhere. Again, colleges start sharing it on their websites, usually from April to sometime over the summer. And we compile it, actually license it with another source that pulls it together. And then we update our site in August. So that has the most up-to-date site information that's out there. The other information that honestly gets continually updated is the crowdsource offers of people putting it in. That's real time. Soon you'll be seeing offers from this current year, which we would be listed as the admission season of 2024-2025. Actually, sorry, it might be listed as academic year 2025-2026, because it's when the student starts college in the fall of 2025. So, you know, we actually haven't done a push yet to get parents to share that information, because it's been trickling in to families themselves. But in December starts a big sharing of information, because that's when families start to get their information. And then that continues from December to April as more and more offers get through.
Someone is at the front door bell.
Okay, yep. So Google says the common data set for the, so there's academic year, and then so the academic year of 2024-2025, right, is happening now, right? Families are in this academic year. So it's going to be released, right, as somebody just Googled and found, in late May and early June of each year. So that will be this coming May and June is when the common data set for the 2024-2025 academic year will be released. The data that is public that we have is from the 2023-2024 academic year. Okay, so thank you all for hanging on, and hopefully this was helpful. Always feel free to send any messages or questions to support@roadtocollege.com. And for seniors, good luck. It's compressed, but we can still help if you've got, if you want us to look over a list, or if you've got some essays that you need help with. But for families of juniors and seniors, juniors and sophomores, this is the perfect time. All I can do is encourage you to get started. And then you won't feel overwhelmed. My encouragement is that a year from now, if you start now, and then, you get the research done, and your student knows what schools that they're going to apply to, they start writing essays over the fall, you will have a pleasant Thanksgiving, as opposed to families that, are still in the mess of things, trying to finish up applications between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Okay, everyone. Hope this was helpful. I will see you soon. Somebody said, would it be great to have a discount offer for annual membership around this Black Friday? There is a discounted offer for annual membership. So check your emails. We definitely have something out there. Sorry, I'm just a little rushed. I don't have it off the top of my head, but there's definitely an offer. And for whatever reason you don't get it, then email me at support@roadtocollege.com. Okay. Bye, everyone. Have a great Thanksgiving. See you soon.